Hello everyone, I hope you're all well. Today I'm going to be doing my birthday show and tell. I have now decided that my birthday is basically like a show and tell channel, which was always like my favourite part of school. But every year, for the last few years now, I've been doing a video after my birthday, talking about what I did for my birthday and then what I treated myself to. Mainly because it's the time when I'm like I allow myself to be the most geeky and do, I guess, some of the things I look forward to in the year I will save up for like the month of my birthday. And it has truly been a month, so there are quite a few different activities, but most of them actually involve going to London this year, which is funny because in previous birthdays there's often like, a trip to York would be included in my birthday celebrations. Since moving to York, I've actually been to London like nearly every other week, sometimes for work, mostly for work, and also just for personal things. But this year there was one particular thing that I was really excited to go and do for my birthday, which was an exhibition at the National Portrait Gallery. Before I talk to you about the exhibition, I also just have to mention how kind of weird it is to be in London and not living there, partly because we stay at Ben's parents' house, which is the place that we lived when we first moved to London for like nearly 2 years, and so it kind of feels like my home away from home anyway. But the commute I do in, or the travel I do in from their house into the National Portrait Gallery, or into kind of that area of London, is my old commute, because my first job when I was in London was at Trafalgar Square Waterstones, and I used to have all my lunches basically just strolling into the National Gallery and the National Portrait Gallery and sitting, in St James's Park or, in Trafalgar Square itself. And so whenever I get on the bus on their house and I go I feel like I'm getting off at my old job. By doing that bus route, I also just realised how good London buses are, like as a tourist, which is kind of an experience I haven't had for a while, and quite a lot of you who haven't been to London or kind of having London trips ask me for recommendations, and my recommendations is this time just to get on a bus. I will include some footage of this bus journey when you kind of go over the bridge, and then you kind of have the brilliant view of Big Ben, and on the route up to Trafalgar Square as well. Even though when I lived in London I was always a tourist, I always took loads of pictures and really enjoyed the city and always whipped out my camera just as much as a tourist would, but I think doing this bus route and just seeing actually how amazing the sights are, I think I recommend getting on a bus. I guess you can do a tour bus, but also so much cheaper just to get a few bus routes that will take you around the city, and just pay that couple of pounds to do that instead. That whole area of London is still one of my favourites, and partly because I am sentimental, and I do have quite a few videos which I will link of me book shopping in that area and also just visiting in that area. But we also had just insanely British weather, so we literally had kind of like dark cloud, and then kind of rain, and then brilliant sunshine literally within 5 minutes. But I had a lovely time. Going back to the original point of this video, the reason I was in London was to go and see the 6 Lives exhibition at the National Portrait Gallery. It is an exhibition all about the lives, the stories of Henry VIII's 6 wives, which I think a lot of you already know is just one of my main interests, my main passions in life. And so as soon as I knew there was going to be an exhibition dedicated to them, because it's really rare to have a whole exhibition dedicated to all 6 of them, I just knew I had to go, and it was unbelievable. I will include a few pictures, but before I show you what I bought in the gift shop, which is kind of the thing I said to Ben for my birthday, I wanted to go feral in the gift shop. I wanted to buy everything that they wanted to sell me basically, and so all of my kind of birthday money that I had saved, I tend to have a little pot where I put a bit of money in, just so then on my birthday I can really treat myself, and I really did that in this gift shop. Because I was so excited to go in the gift shop, I find it really funny how in the actual exhibition you start talking about how we kind of look at the wives now often as objects. They're collectibles. You can get collectible mugs or decorations, and looking at how how that iconography has changed over the time, and how we look at them as kind of a modern audience, and it really made me question a lot of my preconceptions of how we kind of think about them as women. I think in particular this exhibition has 1 room per wife, which is really rare. Whenever you read a book or you see any space, there's often a lot of space given up to certain wives. Catherine of Aragon obviously has the longest reign. We have a lot of detail of that. Anne Boleyn has been a source of fascination for lots and lots of people, including myself. That's where my passion kind of started. But then otherwise there is so little time given to them, like Jane Seymour in particular, partly because of the length of her reign, even though she was the wife actually that was you know, Henry made a deliberate attempt to, you know, remember her. It's then interesting to look at Anne of Cleves, who, you know, because she became Henry's sister, we have a lot more kind of documented evidence of her, but yet the way we view her in society is very different, and she's kind of been reduced to stereotypes over the years. You know, Catherine Howard, hardly anything, mainly because no one really wanted to keep her memory alive. Then you have someone like Catherine Parr, and the other wives also had their fair share of this, but in particular Catherine Parr, her identity has been so mistaken over time, and, you know, there are so many portraits where we thought it was, you know, Princess Elizabeth or it was Lady Jane Grey, and to kind of reclaim her story, and all of these wives' stories is what this exhibition does. So to have a room for each one was just a dream, really. It was also something that I do find exhibitions say this quite a lot, but I always found really moving. The idea that all of these objects in these rooms, the last time so many of them were together were when the wives themselves were alive. That for me is really moving, and there are some moving parts. In fact, the whole thing for me was quite emotional, because I think when you are a geek like this and you see things that you've only ever seen in books and you see them all together, you know, things like kind of moving from one room and seeing, you know, the announcement of Princess Elizabeth's birth, Queen Elizabeth I's birth, with Anne Boleyn, you know, the letter that she wrote where on the third line, Prince had to be changed to Princess. And then you move into the second room, into Jane Seymour, and you see the same kind of letter, but this time, you know, there wasn't a need to change Prince to Princess because it was a prince. In fact, in this exhibition, handwriting was the thing that got me again and again, seeing Catherine Howard's, you know, letter to Thomas Culpeper, and just the emotion of being so close to their own writing and to their own, you know, account books. And I love when exhibitions bring together all those different types of media and brings, you know, you get kind of a better picture of them. And in fact, this whole exhibition was really about getting a picture of them, or looking at the iconography and how that has changed over time and how it's been manipulated, in particular by who is left to remember them. And I think it's kind of the realisation, you know, that we don't have a likeness of Catherine Howard that we know is definitely Catherine Howard, because no one cared. You know, it was politically wise to not remember her. One piece I was really excited to go and see is the medallion of Anne Boleyn from, I think, 1534, which is the only actual likeness we have of Anne Boleyn. So even though as a woman she is someone that we have replicated so many different images of her, you know, even the necklace that I'm wearing is inspired by the bee necklace on that very famous portrait, which is in the National Portrait Gallery and was of course a part of this exhibition. We don't know, you know, we know that she liked, you know, jewellery with her initials on and Henry and Anne and that kind of thing, but we don't know what she looked like. And we have this one medal in lead, and that was, for me, I just kind of, yeah, that was kind of moving. This whole thing I was just geeking out about, and it really did bring them to life and made me question how we viewed them. And I think the fact that actually the exhibition starts with incredible black and white photographic portraits of them, or, well, that's the thing, it's the portraits of the waxworks and the images we've created, and just what that means to how we perceive them. It was amazing. So that was the first thing I treated myself to, and in fact Ben treated me to it for my birthday. But now I'll show you what I got in the gift shop, because I did get a bit carried away. The first one I'll show you is actually, I haven't opened it yet, is the exhibition posters. I will put a picture of this poster. I just really wanted to mark this exhibition. I just feel like it was kind of monumental, and I've always wanted an exhibition poster, and I think they always look really cool when I see that people get them. So I thought I would have one. The portrait of Catherine Parr that's used on this poster is also one of my favourites, mainly because it is a relatively recent discovery, because it was thought to be lost and also was misidentified, I believe, for a long time. That was really special to see that in person, and so I have a kind of a big poster of it now. The next thing I bought was some magnets. I've decided that I want to become someone who collects magnets when they go to places, because I always thought that was just a really cool thing to do. And so obviously I have to start my collection with the 6 wives. I was a bit disappointed these are all different sizes, weirdly, but they are now proudly on my fridge, so I will insert a clip of my fridge. The next thing is this really epic tea towel by Pollyanna Johnson. I love her work, mainly because there's so many brilliant ceramics that she does, but she did a print that is on a tea towel, obviously, and I really wanted to buy the print, but I couldn't justify it because it was like £100 folio print, and so I bought the tea towel instead, and it is currently covered in cat hair because I think Freya decided to sleep on it, but I am actually gonna steam it, and then I'm gonna pin it onto the wall like a tapestry, which of course, you know, Tudor queens should always be on a tapestry, so more to use for this tea towel. But the only thing is, I'm just going to share this with you again, I don't understand the order. This has been really bugging me. I always want to send you a message to be like, can you tell me why? Are they in a weird order because this whole exhibition was about rethinking how we think about the wives? So as an example, normally it would either go Catherine of Aragon, Anne Boleyn, or Catherine of Aragon, Anne Boleyn, right? This has gone Jane Seymour, Catherine of Aragon, Anne Boleyn, who's up there, Catherine Howard, Catherine Parr, Anne of Cleves, right? And then I thought, is it alphabetical? No, because it's Seymour, Aragon. And then I was like, is it in their, I don't know, who died first? Which would still be Catherine of Aragon, but no. It's obviously not in birth order either, I don't know. I don't understand. Continuing to kind of stress me out. I realised that this is the thing I probably should have started with, which was the book of the exhibition by Charlotte Bolland, the director of this exhibition. Mainly I wanted it because I loved this exhibition so much and I wanted to read more about it. It has some of my favourite historians actually contributed to this book, including Nicola Tallis and Nicola Clark and Susanna Lipscomb, and I really, really enjoyed reading it. I'm nearly finished it now actually, but also this is something that, like, when I was young, my obsession with the Six Wives of Henry VIII started before I could read actually. It probably was around the age of 4, I think, but I was full on reading about them by the time I was like 7, and I was obsessed with anything I could get a hold of, and I just saw this and I knew that little Claire would have loved this. And I do think that sometimes some of my adult purchases in life, whether they're financially responsible or like financially sound, I don't know, but they are because young me would have died to have had a book like this with beautiful full page colour pictures. Like, oh, Margaret then, hello. The exhibition was just so good and left me with so many questions and made me realise lots of things as well. So obviously I know, you know, that so much jewellery was inherited by the different wives, and they were passed on over time, and we continue to see that, and obviously that is itself, you know, is a feature of modern royalty as well, but just the significance of that, it really struck me. But yeah, so much of their kind of writing and handwriting I just was really moved by. Really beautiful. Then the last things I bought, or the last 6 things I bought, I have to get my decoration box out. I've talked about my love of the St Nicholas decorations a couple of times now, and I have been collecting them for about a year or 2 now, and I had Anne Boleyn and Henry, but I wanted to get the full collection. I also had Elizabeth, and in fact Elizabeth and Anne I think I bought for my last birthday when I went to the Tower of London, I think, or Hampton Court. When I went to Tower of London I also bought, I bought a raven, I bought quite a few things, but I think I have the Tower of London. I have a lot of them actually. I think I bought this one when I was at Hever Castle, and I bought this one when I was at York. Anyway, one day for Christmas I might do a full haul of them because I always buy them whenever I go anywhere and they sell them basically. So I've got quite a few, like I've got Bath Abbey or Bath Cathedral, I don't know what it is, I don't know if it's a cathedral or abbey. I've got Queen Victoria from Kensington Palace, and I've got Alba actually as well, which I quite like, kind of love them together. Anyway, I'm getting completely distracted. So when I went, I knew I wanted to collect all of the wives, and hence why I put my money in a little pot because they're quite expensive, but I just knew I wanted to get the full collection, and so I have. And let me find them. So also I've taken off their names, and it's not 100% clear which wife is which, so fingers crossed I remember. So first up is Catherine of Aragon, and I also actually have Mary, so I just thought I'd show Mary as well. But Catherine of Aragon, Anne Boleyn that you've already seen, and Jane Seymour, Anne of Cleves and Catherine Howard, And then finally we have Catherine Parr. When I was a little girl, I actually did have a Catherine Parr and an Anne Boleyn. I think the I've got lost over time when I moved and things, but I actually remember, I think Catherine Parr was my first one I ever bought, and I did actually snip off, in fact I think I do have her in a memory box, but I snipped off the decoration because I just used it as a, you know, as a little, I didn't need the actual kind of decorative hook thing on it. But now it's kind of nice to see, because this was the first one I ever got, so it's kind of nice to see that I have a full collection of them now. And in fact, in my last video, I talked about I went to see the Monet in York exhibition, and I did actually buy a little water lily from that exhibition, so I do collect a lot of them. This is a decoration that actually started off my little Viking boat, which we got from the Jorvik Viking Centre. And in fact, Ariel bought this for me. We went the day after my wedding, we went to the Jorvik Viking Centre because I love it so much. But we went and she bought me this. So in fact, Ariel kind of started it off really. But I have just so many. I mean, I have Hodge, who is the cat at Southwark Cathedral, who Ben and I are completely obsessed with. I have a lot of Mary Poppins things from St Paul's. I'm basically doing the haul now. I have a lot of Mary Poppins. In fact, I have Mary Poppins herself. I'll find you my favourite one. I realise I am literally doing the haul now, but one of my favourite ones is one of, here it is. I love this one of St Paul's Cathedral. They have a few different seasons of St Paul's Cathedral, but I always go and see oils. I won't maybe do it, but I will do it again. I'm going to be going to London regularly, but I will have to go every spring. Every spring since I've lived in London, I've walked up to St Paul's and taken pictures of the blossom outside St Paul's, so I had to get the spring version of this. But I love them so much. In fact, here's another brilliant one. This is the White Tower at the Tower of London with a little raven. I think I've already shown you the raven, but if not, let me just get the raven. I think I did. But I mean, oh, it's a pigeon. I love the pigeon. This is also from St Paul's in the Mary Poppins theme. Did I show you Mary Poppins? I can't remember. Anyway, so I now have all of the wives and Henry. I don't know if Henry will be on the tree with the wives. I don't think he deserves it, but I can do themed trees now. I should also say that just by owning all of these, I've never had a Christmas tree, so this will be an experience. Hopefully at Christmas I'll be able to put them up and maybe have themed trees. Maybe do one history, one London tree. I'm excited. And of course, after the exhibition, I went book shopping in my old workplace at Trafalgar Square, Waterstones, and I picked up some Tudor finds. The first book I actually saw in the exhibition, and this is Firebrand by Elizabeth Freemantle, which was first published as The Queen's Gambit, but is soon to be a film, and I'm really excited to see it. And as soon as I knew it was going to be a film, I knew I would have to add it to my TBR. But this is the story of Catherine Parr, who is definitely one of my favourite wives. Not that we have favourite wives, even though obviously, of course, it's pretty obvious which is my true favourite, but I love Catherine Parr, and I'm really excited to read this. This was previously published as The Queen's Gambit. It's actually been on my radar for a long time, but I've just never read it, and there's nothing like a film to kind of get me to read a book faster, so I can't wait to read this. The second book is one that's been on my kind of Tudor TBR for a really long time, and it is Inside the Tudor Court by Dr. Lauren Mackay, and it's Henry VIII and his 6 wives through the eyes of the Spanish ambassador. Eustace Shaftesbury has to be one of my favourite kind of historical figures, in a similar way to actually like Holbein, because he is in the Tudor court at such a turbulent time. He was in the court from 1529 to 1545, and so much happened during those years, and he directly was reporting back, writing letters, and so many of the actual accounts we have, you know, of Catherine of Aragon and Anne Boleyn, obviously in particular at this time, we have from Shaftesbury, and he was such a figure in the court, but I've never read a book about him, and a biography really, and so I'm really excited to read this. This book progresses through the episodic reigns of each of Henry's queens. Shaftesbury tirelessly defended Catherine and her daughter, Mary Tudor, the future Mary I. He remained as ambassador through the rise and fall of Anne Boleyn and reported on each and every one of Henry's subsequent wives, Jane Seymour, Anne of Cleves, Catherine Howard and Catherine Parr, as well as the most notorious of ministers, Thomas Cromwell. He retired in 1545, close to the end of Henry VIII's reign. And I think, again, if you are a Wolf Hall fan, this is also, I think, a really brilliant book to read alongside the book series. I also still haven't read The Mirror in the Light, but I am going to. It is still on my list to read this year. The final Tudor history book I bought was The Thistle and the Rose, The Extraordinary Life of Margaret Tudor by Linda Porter. I've been excited for this to come out. It's one of my kind of most anticipated history releases of this year, and I also think this hardback is just beautiful. But Margaret Tudor was the sister of Henry VIII and the mother of James V. And she's kind of had, I think, kind of a controversial, or I think she's been misunderstood and has been forgotten, I think, as one of the main players of this era as well. And I don't know a huge amount about her, so I really love Linda Porter. Linda Porter does a lot of, obviously, history of this era, but also the 18th century as well, which of course is one of my other main interests. So she's always a writer that I go to. It says, drawing on Margaret's extensive correspondence, more of her letters survive than all of the other Tudor queens put together, and contemporary poems and literature, Linda Porter fashions a compelling story of a misunderstood and underestimated Tudor monarch, whose determination to fight for the rights of her son, James V, is at the core of her dramatic life and indeed laid the groundwork for a future British state. That sounds incredible. The final book I treated myself on this trip is not Tudor related, but it is still history related, and it is Catland, The Feline Enchantment and the Making of the Modern World by Catherine Hughes. Catland looks at the cat boom in the Edwardian era, mainly also looking at figures like Louis Wain. This is really a biography of Louis Wain, but also looks at kind of the culture in the UK and in England in particular of our obsession with cats over time, but specifically in that kind of Edwardian era. As a history geek and a cat lady, very proud of my cat lady status. It's been a thing because I used to hate cats. I used to really not like them. Now I love them, so I'm proud to be a cat lady now. But I also watched the film about Louis Wain with Benedict Cumberbatch in and found it fascinating because I'd never heard of him before, and that kind of started an interest in me. So I'm really excited to learn more about him and also just cats in general, because they are one of my favourite things in the entire world. But yeah, I also think this cover with this Louis Wain is brilliant. And in fact, when you enter into our house, we have a Louis Wain cat saying "Home Sweet Home." So yeah, big Louis Wain kind of fans in this household. The next thing I did on my birthday trip to London was to go for an afternoon tea at Fortnum and Mason's in the Diamond Jubilee Salon. I think lots of you now know how much I love Fortnums. It's been well documented, my obsession with both afternoon tea, because scones are my favourite things, but also just tea in general. My mum really kindly gifted me and Ben an afternoon tea at Fortnum's for our first wedding anniversary, mainly because if you've been on my channel for a while, you will know that I had my hen do was a trip to Fortnum Mason for an afternoon tea, and I've now been lucky enough to go back quite a few times, but Ben has never been, and so my mum wanted to make sure that Ben had this experience, and it was so lovely. I don't quite know what it is about afternoon tea that I love so much. Mainly it's the food, but also because everything's so small. I think when you make a sandwich and you cut it up into like a small little sandwich, it just automatically feels nicer, and you get to try lots of different things. And that's the thing, Ben and I are really keen on trying different teas, and so we ordered a different tea to kind of try. We had a Rwandan tea, and I had a rose Baojong, which was beautiful. That is actually something I've discovered through Ben, is actually rose flavoured things. I went from never liking anything rose flavoured to now always wanting to try anything, whether it's kind of something to eat or to drink that has rose, and this tea was so beautiful. So of course we had to get a little box of the tea bags to take home. So here's the little box, and it says, fine grade large leaf Chinese black tea has been naturally scented with freshly picked rose petals. The scenting process involves an indulgent application of rose petals to ensure a high-intensity rose flavour that balances the dark chocolate caramel sweetness of the tea. Inevitable comparison is with the classical flavours of Turkish Delight. And I don't really like Turkish Delight, but this is so beautiful. Actually, while I'm here, I'm going to do another tea shout out, which is also something I bought during the month of July when in my various trips to London went to Greenwich, which Greenwich is one of my favourite parts of London. I say that all the time. I love it so much. It's still been a place, and actually I've never done a full video on Greenwich, and I don't know whether it's just because we went so regularly that I'd never filmed it. So there's lots of clips in all my my seasonal snapshot videos, which in fact I've got so many of them I need to edit. It's always in like every video. But when we were there most recently, we went to the Cutty Sark gift shop just for fun. We weren't going to the Cutty Sark, I just kind of wanted to pop it in. But I'm really glad I did, because there is a Bird and Blend, again, spoken about a lot. Love their tea. They're doing a collaboration with the Royal Museums Greenwich for some different tea flavours. So I picked up this Cutty Sark cargo tea. It says, embark on a delicious tea voyage inspired by the destinations of Cutty Sark, sailed to and the cargoes it carried. And it is a black tea with cocoa shells, ginger and orange blossom. I love orange blossom, also one of my favourite kind of tea flavours. But I have ginger a lot, but that's mainly because I have anxiety that causes me to feel nauseous all the time. And so I drink a lot of ginger, but it's not by choice. Like it's like a soothing thing. So I wouldn't automatically pick a ginger, like ginger and chocolate. But actually, I really love this tea. Ben really likes it as well, because it feels warming, and actually I think it'll be the perfect kind of winter treat. But we've actually become a bit obsessed with it. I'm aware I've just gone on a bit of a tea digression, but I also recently actually picked this teapot up in a charity shop, because on the journey to move, our teapot got completely like smashed up, and I have always wanted a spode teapot. That is my dream. I want to get a blue Italian spode teapot. I want to collect, I've got spode plates and things, but they've been like discounted. They're like seconds because they're slightly blurred, or like the print hasn't gone on quite correctly. So one day I will get my spode teapot, but I do need a teapot because evidently tea is a big part of my personality, and when I was in a charity shop I just saw this brand new teapot which has a William Morris print on it, and it's the Leonardo collection, I believe, which do a lot of the William Morris, but it is the Bachelor's Button print, and I just thought it was really beautiful, and I actually haven't used it yet, so I need to give it a wash and then I will use it. And so I can actually put my loose leaf in a teapot and then just use the strainer again. So I'm aware of the digression, but actually I think it's really pretty, and it's just kind of delicate, and it's got a really kind of grey, almost like a ducky grey and gold, and it's just so pretty. The print doesn't go all the way around, which is a slight kind of, you know, an issue for me, but I bought this for, I think it was either £6 or £4, I can't remember, but it was under £10, which I thought was amazing. Coming back from that slight tea digression, I always feel like my videos are like, if you've ever read Tristram Shandy by Lawrence Stan, kind of like the constant like loops back and forth. That's what I feel like that's what my brain is, but that is what I feel like my videos are like too. But coming back to Fortnum Masons and being on Piccadilly, of course I had to go to Hatchards, which is my favourite bookshop in that area, and I definitely prefer it to the massive Waterstones. I always like cosy bookshops, and even though I know it feels just like a Waterstones, there is something really special to me about that Hatchards, mainly because I do like kind of some of the Hatchards special editions, but also because obviously it's featured in Mrs Dalloway. Mrs Dalloway is my favourite novel, and I love Virginia Woolf, so it only felt right to actually pick up a biography of Virginia Woolf at Hatchards. It was torrential rain outside, and we were all kind of cocooned in this bookshop, and there were so many people who were waiting for the rain to go, and it just felt like a really very British lovely moment. But I saw this biography by Alexandra Harris, and I actually haven't read a biography of Virginia Woolf for a long time, and I kind of just wanted to pick something up that wasn't necessarily a Virginia Woolf novel but was about her, and I'm nearly finished this, but actually I started reading it on the bus back, which actually felt like the perfect way to read Virginia Woolf, is always like on an omnibus or something. But I'm just really loving her writing and how she brings the novels alive with the context of Virginia Woolf's own life. Just really beautifully, poetically written. And I think if you want to know more about Virginia Woolf and you want to read a biography, but you don't want to read, you know, the big Hermione Lee biography, which is brilliant, but it is big, this book I would so recommend. It just really like hits the spot, and it is so full of life and also joy as well, which I think sometimes when you read about Virginia Woolf that is often overshadowed. And so this book I know is already going to be, I think, one of my top reads this year, and biographies don't always make it into my top reads for whatever reason, but I would definitely recommend it if you were looking for a book about Virginia Woolf, but just want a kind of a quick read to pick up. I'm loving it. So that is the show and tell for my birthday. I am 29, in my 30th year, and there's a lot of conversations about kind of 30 by 30 and things you want to achieve by 30, and I don't have anything. And actually, when I was sitting down thinking about my birthday and things I've bought, and things that have brought me joy for my birthday, but are just also symbolic of the things that have brought me joy for a really long time, I think it's just, you know, the things I'm going to do before 30 is just really embracing my geekiness and the stuff that I love and that I'm passionate about. And, you know, looking back at my excitement of, you know, the Six Lives exhibition, I am still the same as I was when I was 7 or 11, or, you know, so many of my birthdays when I was a little girl were spent in London. My mum brought me to the National Portrait Gallery so many times, which I should have mentioned at the start of this video, but that's where I went for my birthday, and I always wanted to go straight to see the portrait of Anne Boleyn. Nothing has changed. I'm still the same little girl, and actually all of these purchases that I made, I would have made then. It's kind of funny how you age, and actually your core identity is kind of the same at 8. Yeah, it's funny. So I think my 30 by 30 might just be like 30 geeky things I want to do, or like places I want to visit, or yeah, it's funny, isn't it, how we always want to achieve certain things by certain ages, and 30 is a bit of a one. But yeah, I mean, it's a privilege to grow old. And on that note, thank you for sticking with me. I've been now making videos for 12 years, longer than 12, right? I can't remember. And so many of you have been with me for a long time and have really seen me grow up as well. And so thank you for being on this journey with me. I hope you enjoyed all of the gifts that I've treated myself to and the places that I visited, aka London, quite a lot. But yes, thank you for watching, and if you are watching at the end with me, please leave a birthday emoji, a cake emoji actually. Please don't leave a balloon, because as I said, I think in my last birthday video, I have a really bad phobia of balloons, so please leave a cake emoji, unless you hate me, and then in fact the hate comment can just be a balloon, but a cake would be preferred. I think I made that joke last time. Evidently nothing has changed, and I will actually leave my birthday videos I did previously, because in fact I did very similar Tudor history things and also Virginia Woolf related things, because I went to Charleston Farm and Virginia Woolf's house, Monk's house, which actually I still haven't edited my videos of, so that's also still on my list. Maybe I should do that by I'm 30, that will be on my list. Anyway, I'm now kind of rambling, so thank you for watching, and I'll see you again soon in another video.